In 1985, a Soviet military engineer named Valery Yernik walked into the offices of a Moscow newspaper. He was terrified. He had been part of a secret project, a project so dangerous that he believed it could end the world. He told the journalists about a system called Perimeter. The Americans called it the Dead Hand. It was an automated doomsday machine. Here's how it worked. Sensors buried across the Soviet Union would detect a nuclear detonation on their soil. If the system lost contact with military command, it assumed the worst, that the leadership was dead, that Moscow was gone, that retaliation was the only option. The system would then pull underground sensors for signs of nuclear fallout. If the sensors confirmed a strike, Perimeter would launch all remaining nuclear missiles without a single human hand on the controls. No approval, no override, just automated destruction. Yernik warned that the system was still active. Days later, he was found dead in his apartment. The official cause? Heart attack. The Perimeter system? It's still there, and it's still waiting. Valery Yernik was a senior engineer in the Soviet Strategic Rocket Forces, one of the people who actually built the system he later tried to expose. The Perimeter system was developed in the late Cold War, when Soviet leaders lived in constant fear of a decapitation strike from the United States, a first strike that would wipe out Moscow, the Kremlin, and everyone with launch authority. Perimeter was designed to be the ultimate deterrent. Even if you kill us, we will kill you. The system uses seismic, radiation, and pressure sensors buried deep underground to detect nuclear explosions. If the sensors trigger, and if communication with command is lost, a special command missile launches from a hardened silo. That missile carries no warhead. Instead, it broadcasts launch orders to every remaining missile silo, submarine, and bomber across the country. The system is fully automated. No human can stop it once it starts, and it's still operational. Russia has never officially confirmed its status, but everyone who studies these things believes it's active. In 1993, after the fall of the Soviet Union, Russian officials quietly confirmed the existence of Perimeter to their American counterparts. They said the system had been deactivated, dismantled, a relic of a dead empire. But Yernik's testimony suggested otherwise. In 2018, Russian state media published an article titled "The Weapon of the Apocalypse" that described Perimeter in detail and confirmed it was still operational. They called it the system that ensures Russia's survival. The article was quickly removed from their website, but not before it was archived, screenshotted, and shared around the world. The message was clear. The dead hand is still there, still waiting, still ready to end the world on a signal that will never come. Until it does. Why does Russia still maintain Perimeter? The official answer is deterrence. A system this terrifying, the logic goes, make sure no one ever attacks. But the real answer is fear. Russia's conventional military is weaker than NATO's. Their economy is a fraction of the West's. Their only guarantee of survival is nuclear retaliation. But if a first strike could decapitate their leadership, wipe out their command structure, they need a backup. Perimeter is that backup. It's the ultimate weapon, a system designed to ensure that if they are destroyed, everyone else is destroyed too. It's not about winning. It's about making sure no one else does either. The existence of Perimeter is barely discussed in public. Western media rarely mentions it. Defense analysts acknowledge it quietly in technical journals, then move on to other topics. The suppression isn't a conspiracy of silence. It's something worse. It's the horrifying normalization of the end of the world. We live with the knowledge that a machine, buried somewhere in Russia, could end civilization without a human pulling a trigger. We live with the knowledge that a false reading, an earthquake mistaken for a nuclear strike, could wake the machine up. And we do nothing. We accept it. We go about our lives. That's the real suppression, the suppression of our own fear, the deadening of our own response to the apocalypse that lives in a bunker waiting to be born. Is Perimeter still active? Russia won't say. The command missiles are still deployed in hardened silos. The sensors are still buried across the country. The launch codes are still in the system, waiting for the signal that never comes. One false reading, one seismic tremor mistaken for a nuclear blast, and the machine wakes up. The mystery isn't whether it exists. We know it exists. The mystery is whether it will ever be deactivated. And the answer, after 40 years, is no. The dead hand is waiting. For a war. For a mistake. For the end of the world. The dead hand is a relic of Cold War thinking. A machine built by men who are now dead. But modern weapons are even more terrifying. Item 2 is a weapon that drops metal rods from space with the force of a nuclear bomb. No radiation. No warning. No defense. Just destruction from the heavens, delivered in 15 minutes. In the 1950s, the U.S. Air Force had a terrifying idea. What if you could drop a tungsten rod from space, a rod weighing 10 tons, traveling at 10 times the speed of sound, and hit a target with the force of a nuclear bomb? No fallout, no radiation, no warning. The weapon would be invisible, untraceable, and unstoppable. They called it Project Thor. The science was sound. The engineering was possible. And then the project was quietly canceled. Or was it? In 2003, the Pentagon released a report called Space Weapons, Earth Wars. In it, they described hypervelocity rod bundles as a viable future weapon. They talked about global strike capabilities, about hitting any target on Earth within 15 minutes. Project Thor wasn't dead. It was waiting for the right moment to come back. Project Thor was the brainchild of Jerry Pournelle, a science fiction writer and defense consultant who spent his life thinking about the future of warfare. He proposed launching a satellite that would carry dozens of tungsten rods, each about 20 feet long, a foot wide, and weighing 10 tons. When deployed, the rods would fall to Earth under gravity, reaching speeds of Mach 10 or more. The kinetic energy of impact would be equivalent to a small nuclear bomb. The weapon would be immune to interception. No missile defense system could stop a falling rod. It would take 15 minutes from deployment to impact, and no one would see it coming until it was too late. The technology for Project Thor already exists. The launch vehicles exist. The targeting systems exist. The only thing missing is the political will to deploy it. But in 2018, the Trump administration announced the creation of Space Force, the first new branch of the U.S. military in over 70 years. Their official mission, to defend U.S. assets in space. But a Space Force needs space weapons. And space weapons need to be tested. In 2021, the U.S. tested a space-based interceptor designed to hit incoming missiles from orbit. The same technology, kinetic impactors guided by satellite, could just as easily hit targets on Earth. The line between defense and offense is thinner than we think. The Outer Space Treaty of 1967 bans weapons of mass destruction in space. But tungsten rods aren't WMDs. They're conventional weapons. No nuclear material, no radiation, no chemical agents, just mass and velocity. The treaty doesn't ban them. So the legal framework is already in place. The military has been quietly developing the technology for decades, running simulations, refining targeting algorithms, testing materials. The only thing holding them back is the fear of escalation. Once weapons are in space, the arms race begins. The high ground becomes a battlefield, and the people who control space control the Earth. The generals, the contractors, the politicians, they know this, and they're getting impatient. Why haven't we deployed Project Thor? The official answer is cost. Launching a 10-ton rod into space costs tens of millions of dollars per rod. But the real answer is deterrence. If the United States puts weapons in space, so will Russia. So will China. The arms race would accelerate. The high ground would become a battlefield. So the weapon is suppressed, not by government secrecy, not by buried patents, but by the cold logic of mutual assured destruction. The moment one side deploys, the game changes. And no one wants to change it. Because once the rods are in orbit, there's no taking them back. Today, Project Thor is a classified concept, discussed only in defense journals and classified briefings. No one knows if the U.S. has deployed kinetic rods in space. The satellites are there, hundreds of them, with classified payloads doing classified things. The rods could be sitting in orbit right now, waiting for a command that will never come. Or they could be waiting for a war. The mystery isn't whether they can build it. We know they can. The mystery is whether they already have. And if they have, who's next? Which country will be the first to drop a rod from space? And what happens when they do? Project Thor attacks from space, but Item 3 attacks from the sky itself by controlling the weather. It's a weapon that can create droughts, floods, and storms. And it's been tested on populations that had no idea they were targets. In Alaska, there's a field of 180 antennas stretching across 33 acres of remote wilderness. It's called HAARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. Officially, it's a research facility to study the ionosphere, that layer of the atmosphere where radio waves bounce and auroras dance. But conspiracy theorists have long claimed it's something else entirely, a weather weapon, a device that can trigger earthquakes, floods, and droughts. In 2010, when Pakistan experienced catastrophic floods that killed nearly 2,000 people, the Russian newspaper Pravda accused the United States of using HAARP to cause them. In 2011, when a massive earthquake struck Japan, triggering a tsunami and a nuclear meltdown at Fukushima, similar accusations appeared across Russian and Chinese media. The United States denied everything. But in 2014, the Air Force quietly shut HAARP down. Then they transferred it to the University of Alaska. But the antennas are still there, and they're still operational. HAARP was built by the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Navy, two branches of the military, working together on a civilian research project. Construction began in 1993. The facility includes 180 antennas, each 72 feet tall, spread across 33 acres of Alaskan tundra. The antennas can beam up to 3.6 megawatts of power into the ionosphere, heating a small patch of the upper atmosphere to create artificial auroras. The official purpose: to study how the ionosphere affects radio communications and satellite navigation. But the military holds patents for weather modification, patents for ionospheric heating that describe methods to disrupt communications, disable satellites, and even alter weather patterns by influencing the jet stream. The technology exists. The facility exists. The question is what it's really for. In 2003, a Russian physicist named Nikolai Knyazev published a paper in a respected scientific journal arguing that HAARP could be used to disrupt the ionosphere in ways that affect global weather patterns. The ionosphere, he explained, is part of the Earth's global electrical circuit. Disrupt it, and you disrupt the jet stream. Disrupt the jet stream, and you can cause droughts, floods, and storms on the other side of the planet. The physics is sound. The technology is plausible. And the U.S. military has been studying it for decades. In 1997, the Air Force published a report titled Weather as a Force Multiplier. In it, they called weather modification a powerful instrument for future warfare. They wrote about creating floods, droughts, and storms as military operations. The intent is clear. The capability is the only missing piece. In 2014, the Air Force announced they were shutting HAARP down. The facility was transferred to the University of Alaska for educational and research purposes. But here's the thing. The University of Alaska doesn't have a multi-million-dollar budget for ionospheric research. They can't afford to run HAARP at full power. They can't afford the maintenance. So who does? The antennas are still there. The transmitters are still there. The generators are still humming. And according to some reports, the facility still operates, just not for academic purposes. The transfer was a cover, a way to distance the military from a facility that had become too controversial. HAARP is still in military hands. Why does the military want HAARP? The official answer: research into the ionosphere for communications. But the real answer is control. If you can control the weather, you can control the battlefield. You can flood your enemies' cities. You can drought their crops. You can disrupt their communications, blind their satellites, and turn their own atmosphere against them. HAARP is the ultimate weapon, a tool that turns nature into a weapon. And the U.S. military has been working on it for 30 years. Quietly, patiently, waiting for the moment when weather becomes just another weapon system. Today, HAARP is officially a civilian facility operated by the University of Alaska. But the military still has access. The antennas still point at the sky. The transmitters still hum with power. And whenever a major disaster strikes, the accusations start again. Was it HAARP? Was it natural? Was it a test of a weapon we're not supposed to know exists? The facility's true purpose remains a mystery. And that mystery is the perfect cover. HAARP could be a harmless research facility studying the Northern Lights. Or it could be the most dangerous weapon ever built, capable of reshaping the climate of entire continents. We may never know which, because the people who know aren't talking. HAARP attacks from the sky, from the atmosphere, from the very fabric of our planet's weather systems. But Item 4 attacks from within by controlling the human mind. It's the CIA's darkest secret, a program that experimented on citizens without their knowledge, a weapon that could turn anyone into a puppet. And it's still classified. In the 1950s, the CIA began a secret program to develop mind control techniques. They called it MKUltra. They tested LSD on unwitting subjects, prisoners, mental patients, prostitutes, anyone who couldn't say no. They used electroshock therapy to wipe memories. They experimented with hypnosis, sensory deprivation, and psychological torture so intense it broke minds. They set up brothels to drug clients without their knowledge, watching through one-way mirrors as men lost control of their own bodies. They paid doctors to perform lobotomies. And when the program was exposed in the 1970s, the CIA destroyed the records. Thousands of documents were burned in a single day. The full scope of MKUltra is still unknown. But the survivors, the people who were drugged, tortured, and experimented on, never forgot. And neither should we. MKUltra was run by the CIA's Office of Scientific Intelligence, a division so secret that most of the agency didn't know existed. It operated from 1953 to 1973, 2 decades of experiments that violated every ethical boundary. The program had 149 subprojects, involving dozens of universities, hospitals, prisons, and foundations. The goal was to create a perfect agent, someone who could be programmed to perform missions, withstand interrogation, or carry out assassinations without knowing it. The methods were brutal: drug-induced psychosis, electroconvulsive therapy, isolation tanks, and psychological torture designed to break a person down and rebuild them. The subjects were often prisoners, mental patients, or prostitutes, people with no power to refuse, no one to advocate for them, no voice. In 1975, the Church Committee, a U.S. Senate investigation into intelligence abuses, exposed MKUltra to the world. The CIA had kept detailed records of the experiments. But in 1973, 2 years before the investigation began, CIA Director Richard Helms ordered all MKUltra files destroyed. By the time the Senate came looking, almost everything was gone. What survived was a handful of documents that had been misfiled in a different division. They revealed a program of extraordinary scale and horror. They showed that the CIA had experimented on human beings without consent, without oversight, without any moral compass. And they proved that the agency was willing to do anything in the name of national security. The they of MKUltra is the CIA itself, an agency that believed it was above the law, an agency that experimented on its own citizens, its own prisoners, its own citizens in hospitals who trusted their doctors, an agency that destroyed the evidence when it was caught. The survivors sued. They won. The CIA paid settlements. But no one went to jail. No one was punished. The program was shut down officially. But was it? The techniques that MKUltra developed didn't just disappear. The scientists who ran the experiments didn't stop working. The knowledge they gained about how to break a mind, how to rebuild it, how to control it, that knowledge went somewhere. After MKUltra was exposed, the CIA promised to stop. They signed agreements. They created oversight committees. But the records were destroyed. The witnesses were silenced. The truth was buried. And in the decades since, there have been whispers that the program never really ended, that the techniques were refined, handed off to other agencies, embedded in other programs, that they're still being used today in places we don't know about, on people who can't speak. The suppression here isn't of a weapon, it's of history itself. We don't know the full story of MKUltra because the CIA made sure we never would. They burned the files, and with them, the truth. Today, MKUltra is a footnote in history, a dark chapter that most textbooks skip. But the mystery remains. What did the CIA learn? Did they develop effective mind control techniques? Are they still using them? The documents are gone. The subjects are dead. The truth is lost to time. All we have are the stories of people who woke up in strange places, who couldn't remember what happened, who felt like something had been taken from them. Those stories are the only evidence left, and they're not enough to prove anything, but they're enough to keep us wondering. MKUltra attacks the mind. It attacks what makes us human. But Item 5 attacks from orbit, a secret space plane that no one can explain, that orbits for years without landing, that carries a payload we're not allowed to know. In 2010, the U.S. Air Force launched a small, unmanned space plane called the X-37B. It looked like a miniature space shuttle, a scaled-down version of the iconic vehicle that had flown for 3 decades. It was designed to stay in orbit for months at a time, conducting experiments in the harsh environment of space. Then it would land autonomously on a runway in Florida, like an airplane returning from a routine flight. The Air Force said it was for testing new technologies. They wouldn't say what technologies. They wouldn't say what the plane was doing. The X-37B has now completed 6 missions, spending over 3,700 days in orbit. The longest mission lasted 908 days, nearly 2.5 years in space. No one knows what it was doing up there. The Air Force won't say, and that's why people are worried. The X-37B is operated by the U.S. Space Force, the newest branch of the American military. It's 29 feet long, with a wingspan of 15 feet. It launches on an Atlas V or Falcon 9 rocket, rides into orbit, and then lands like a plane on a runway at Vandenberg Space Force Base or Kennedy Space Center. Its payload bay is about the size of a pickup truck bed, big enough to carry a small satellite, a sensor package, or something else entirely. The Space Force has released a few details over the years. They've tested solar panels, ion thrusters, and material science experiments. But the payload bay is modular. The experiments can be swapped out between missions. And the Space Force refuses to say what's been in there for the last 15 years. In 2021, the X-37B deployed a small satellite that was later identified by amateur astronomers as a space situational awareness vehicle, a satellite designed to track other satellites. That means the X-37B can deploy surveillance assets from its payload bay. It can maneuver in orbit using its own propulsion system. It can approach other satellites. The implications are clear. The X-37B is not just a research platform. It's a weapons platform. It could inspect enemy satellites up close. It could disable them with directed energy. It could capture them, drag them out of orbit, or simply destroy them. And no one would know until it was too late. Because the plane's missions are classified, its payloads are classified, and its orbital maneuvers are classified. Why won't the Space Force say what the X-37B is doing? The official answer is national security. But the real answer is escalation. If the United States admits it has a space weapon, Russia and China will accelerate their own programs. The arms race would move into orbit, and the high ground would become a battlefield. So the X-37B is kept secret, not because it's illegal, but because its existence is destabilizing. The they here is the U.S. military, hiding its capabilities to avoid provoking its enemies. But the secrecy itself is dangerous, because if Russia and China don't know what the X-37B is doing, they have to assume the worst. And assumptions lead to overreactions, and overreactions lead to war. The X-37B's missions are classified. Its payloads are classified. Its orbital maneuvers are classified. The suppression here isn't of a weapon, it's of information. We don't know what the space plane is doing because the military doesn't want us to know. And that ignorance is dangerous. If the X-37B is a weapon, it's a weapon that could start a war in space without anyone knowing who fired first. A satellite could be disabled. A country could be blinded, and we wouldn't see it coming. The first battle of World War III might already be happening in orbit, and we wouldn't even know it. Today, the X-37B is in orbit again. Its seventh mission began in December 2023. The Space Force says it's testing new orbital regimes, a phrase that means nothing and everything. No one knows what that means. The plane will stay up for months, maybe years. Then it will land, silently, on a runway in Florida. And the mystery will continue. What is it doing up there? Is it watching enemy satellites? Is it waiting for a signal to strike? Is it a weapon, or just a test bed for future weapons? We may never know, because the people who know aren't talking, and the plane in orbit isn't going to tell us. The X-37B is a quiet threat, silently orbiting Earth, doing things we're not allowed to know about. But Item 6 is a loud threat, a missile that can fly for years, carrying nuclear warheads, ready to strike at any moment. And it's already deployed. In 2018, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced a new weapon. He called it the Burevestnik, the Storm Petrel. It was a cruise missile powered by a nuclear reactor, a small, nuclear-powered engine that could fly for days, or weeks, or years. It could circle the globe, evade defenses, and strike any target on Earth. The range was effectively unlimited. Putin showed a video of the missile in flight, a sleek, terrifying shape moving through the sky. Then he said something chilling. They will have no time to come to their senses. The Burevestnik is a flying Chernobyl. If it crashes, it spreads radiation. If it's shot down, it spreads radiation. If it simply flies, it spreads radiation. It's a weapon that poisons the world just by existing. The Burevestnik is a nuclear-powered, nuclear-armed cruise missile. It uses a small nuclear reactor to heat air, creating thrust through a ramjet engine. This gives it unlimited range and unpredictable flight paths. It can fly low to evade radar, hugging the ground at treetop level. It can circle for days, waiting for the right moment to strike. The United States developed a similar concept in the 1960s called Project Pluto, a nuclear-powered ramjet that could deliver warheads anywhere on Earth. The program was canceled because the missile was too dangerous. It would leave a trail of radiation across the continents it flew over. The missile itself would be so radioactive that it would kill anyone who got near it. The US looked at the technology and said no. The Russians have now built it. In August 2019, a mysterious explosion occurred at a Russian military base near the White Sea in the far north of the country. The radiation levels spiked dramatically. The U.S. intelligence community confirmed that it was a Burevestnik test that had gone catastrophically wrong. 5 Russian nuclear engineers were killed in the blast. The explosion released radiation into the atmosphere, detectable as far away as Scandinavia. The Russians tried to cover it up, lying about the cause, refusing to release information. But European radiation sensors don't lie. The Burevestnik was real. It was being tested, and it had already killed its own creators. Why would Russia build such a weapon? The answer is deterrence. Russia's conventional forces are weaker than NATO's. Their economy is a fraction of the West's. Their nuclear arsenal is their only guarantee of survival. But U.S. missile defense systems threaten to intercept Russian missiles before they can reach their targets. The Burevestnik is designed to defeat those defenses. It can fly under them, around them, through them. It can change course unpredictably. It can loiter for days, waiting for the defenses to give up. It's a weapon that says, you cannot stop us. And if you try, we will poison the world. It's the ultimate expression of Russia's nuclear strategy. If we can't win, no one can. The Burevestnik is a violation of everything we've tried to achieve in nuclear arms control. It's a weapon that makes the world more dangerous, not more stable. It's a weapon that creates accidents waiting to happen. But Russia doesn't care. The United States has tried to suppress its development through sanctions, through diplomacy, through back-channel warnings. It hasn't worked. The weapon is almost certainly operational now, deployed in hidden locations across Russia. And the world has to live with it. A flying nuclear reactor that could circle the globe for weeks, spreading radiation wherever it goes. A missile that could start a nuclear war without ever firing its warhead. A weapon that should never have been built. Is the Burevestnik fully operational? Russia won't say. The tests have been plagued by failures. The 2019 explosion was a major setback. But Putin keeps talking about it, keeps showing videos, keeps reminding the world that it exists. The weapon is part of Russia's new nuclear strategy, a strategy that embraces risk, that threatens escalation, that dares the West to respond. It's a threat that hangs over Europe, Asia, and the world. The mystery isn't whether it works. The mystery is whether it will ever be used. And if it is, what happens to the planet? What happens when a flying nuclear reactor is shot down over a city? What happens when one of these things crashes in the wrong place? The world may find out. The Burevestnik is a weapon of mass destruction, a flying Chernobyl that could end civilization without ever reaching its target. But Item 7 is a weapon of mass murder, a swarm of drones that choose their own targets, that hunt without human control, that kill without human decision. And they're already being tested. Imagine a swarm of 1,000 tiny drones, each the size of a bird, flying together in perfect formation. They're searching for a target. They've been programmed with a face. They've been given a mission, and they've been told to kill. There's no pilot in a bunker. There's no human deciding who lives and who dies. The drones make the decision themselves. This isn't science fiction. It's already being developed. The U.S. military has tested drone swarms in exercises across the Nevada desert. China has deployed them in public demonstrations, thousands of drones lighting up the sky in synchronized patterns. Russia is working on them in classified programs. And once they're in the field, there's no calling them back. A swarm is a weapon that can't be controlled, only unleashed. Drone swarms are being developed by all major militaries. The U.S. Department of Defense has a program called Swarm that has been quietly funded for over a decade. The Navy has tested swarms of small drones that can overwhelm enemy ships, flying so fast and so low that no defense system can track them. The Air Force has tested swarms that can conduct surveillance and strike targets simultaneously, sharing information in real time. China has demonstrated swarms of thousands of drones performing coordinated light shows at events like the Beijing Olympics. The same technology that creates beautiful patterns in the sky can be used for war. The drones communicate with each other, share information, and make decisions collectively. There's no single point of failure. If one drone is shot down, the rest continue. If 100 are shot down, 900 keep coming. In 2021, a UN report described an incident in Libya that should have made headlines around the world. A drone swarm had attacked retreating forces without human intervention. The drones were programmed to identify and engage targets autonomously. They didn't need a pilot's approval. They didn't need a command from a bunker. They just killed. It was the first recorded use of autonomous weapons in combat. The world barely noticed. The story was buried in a footnote of a technical report. But the line had been crossed. Machines had made the decision to kill without human oversight, without human judgment, without human morality. And no one stopped them. Why are militaries building autonomous weapons? The answer is speed. In modern warfare, the side that reacts faster wins. Human decision-making takes time, seconds that feel like minutes, minutes that feel like hours. A swarm can identify and engage a target in milliseconds. That speed is a tactical advantage that no human commander can match, but it's also a moral disaster. When machines decide who lives and who dies, we've lost something essential about what it means to be human. The they here is the military-industrial complex, chasing speed at the expense of humanity, building weapons that no one will control because control slows them down. There have been efforts to ban autonomous weapons. The campaign to stop killer robots has been working for years, gathering signatures, lobbying governments, raising awareness. But the major powers, the United States, Russia, China, have blocked any meaningful treaty. They don't want to give up the technology. They don't want to cede the advantage. The suppression here isn't of the weapon, it's of the rules that would control it. The world is allowing autonomous weapons to be developed without oversight, without regulation, without any agreement on what's acceptable. And when they're deployed at scale, it will be too late to stop them. The killer robots will already be here. Today, autonomous drone swarms are being tested in secret. The public sees the light shows at the Olympics and thinks it's entertainment. The military sees the weapons. The mystery isn't whether they work. They work. The mystery is when they'll be used. And when they are, who will control them? The answer might be no one. A swarm is a weapon that can't be recalled. Once it's in the air, once it's hunting, once it's making decisions, it's out of our hands. And that's the most terrifying thing about it. Not what it can do, but that we can't stop it from doing it. Drone swarms are visible and noisy. They fill the sky with light and sound. But item 8 is invisible and silent, a weapon that kills without sound, without light, without warning. A weapon that can knock out a city's power grid, disable its communications, and send it back to the 19th century in seconds. And it's already deployed. Imagine a weapon that moves at the speed of light. There's no warning, no sound, no visible projectile. 1 second you're standing there, watching the horizon, thinking about the day ahead. The next second, you're dead. This is the promise of directed energy weapons, lasers, microwaves, and particle beams that can kill instantly, silently, and from miles away. The U.S. military has been developing these weapons for decades, spending billions of dollars on programs that most Americans have never heard of. They've already tested lasers that can shoot down drones, missiles, and even aircraft in flight. The Navy has deployed them on ships. The Air Force is putting them on fighter jets. The technology is here, and once it's deployed at scale, warfare changes forever. Directed energy weapons come in several forms. High-energy lasers can burn through metal at a distance, focusing a beam of light so intense that it can melt steel in seconds. High-power microwaves can fry electronics from miles away, disabling everything from drones to power grids, and they can kill people without leaving a visible mark. Particle beams can disrupt matter at the molecular level, tearing apart the structure of whatever they hit. The United States has tested lasers on Navy ships, Army vehicles, and Air Force planes for over a decade. In 2022, the Navy deployed a laser weapon system called Helios on a destroyer, a real, operational weapon that can shoot down drones and small boats. The laser is invisible to the naked eye. The target never sees it coming. It just stops working. In 2023, the Air Force announced that they had successfully tested a laser weapon on a fighter jet. The laser shot down an incoming missile in flight, tracking it, locking onto it, and destroying it before the missile could reach its target. The test was conducted in secret. The results were classified, but the message was clear. Lasers are no longer experimental. They're operational. Soon, every fighter jet will carry one. Every ship, every ground vehicle. The battlefield of the future will be lit by invisible beams, cutting through the air at the speed of light, killing targets before they even know they're being targeted. Why are militaries deploying lasers? The answer is cost. A missile costs millions of dollars. A laser shot costs pennies. If you can shoot down an enemy missile with a laser, you've won the economic war before the first shot is fired. But the strategic implications are terrifying. Lasers make nuclear deterrence unstable. If one side can shoot down incoming missiles, the other side might feel forced to launch first to overwhelm the defenses before they can react. The here is the arms race logic, the same logic that gave us the Cold War, the same logic that pushed us to the brink of annihilation. And lasers are pushing us back toward that brink. Directed energy weapons are being deployed with little public debate. Congress has approved funding year after year without serious scrutiny. The military has tested them in secret. They're already on ships, and soon they'll be everywhere. The suppression here isn't of the technology, it's of the conversation. We're not talking about what these weapons mean. We're not debating whether we should have them. We're not asking the hard questions about what happens when lasers are used. We're just building them. And by the time we realize what we've done, it will be too late to undo it. Today, directed energy weapons are real. They're deployed on U.S. Navy ships. They're being tested on fighter jets. They're being improved every year, becoming more powerful, more precise, more deadly. The mystery isn't whether they work. They work. The mystery is what happens when they're used. What happens when a laser shoots down a Russian missile over the Pacific? What happens when a microwave weapon kills a Chinese pilot over the South China Sea? What happens when the invisible weapons become visible in their effects? The line has been crossed. We're just waiting to find out what happens next. Lasers are advanced and futuristic, weapons that seem like they belong in science fiction. But Item 9 is a relic of the Cold War, a nuclear weapon you could carry in a backpack. A weapon designed to be smuggled into a city, hidden in a basement, and detonated without warning. And it's still out there. In the 1960s, the U.S. Army fielded a weapon called the Davy Crockett. It was a nuclear rocket launcher. The warhead was tiny, just 20 tons of yield, about the size of the bomb that destroyed Hiroshima. But here's the terrifying part. The weapon was designed to be fired by a 3-man crew. It could be carried in a jeep. It had a range of just 2 miles. That means the soldiers firing it would be within the blast radius. They would die. The Davy Crockett was a suicide weapon, and there were thousands of them deployed in Europe, hidden in bunkers, loaded onto vehicles, ready to fire. The idea was to stop a Soviet invasion with nuclear weapons, even if it meant killing our own troops. The Davy Crockett was insane, and it was real. The Davy Crockett was developed in the 1950s as a tactical nuclear weapon. The idea, born in the fever dreams of Cold War strategists, was to use small nuclear bombs on the battlefield against mass Soviet troops advancing through the Fulda Gap in West Germany. The Davy Crockett was the smallest of these weapons. It weighed just 76 pounds. It could be fired from a tripod or from a Jeep-mounted launcher. The warhead had a yield of 10 to 20 tons of TNT, enough to level a city block. The effective blast radius was about 500 meters. The launcher's range was 2 miles. The crew had no chance of survival. They were expected to die for their country by their own weapon. They were expected to pull the trigger knowing they would never pull it again. The Davy Crockett was deployed from 1961 to 1971. Thousands were stationed in West Germany, ready to stop a Soviet invasion that everyone hoped would never come. The doctrine was called tactical nuclear warfare. It assumed that nuclear weapons could be used in limited ways, in small doses, without escalating to full-scale strategic war. This was insane. Any use of nuclear weapons, anywhere, would have led to retaliation. Any nuclear detonation on European soil would have triggered a response that no one could control. The Davy Crockett wasn't a weapon. It was a trigger, and it was in the hands of young soldiers, barely out of high school, who had no idea what they were carrying. They were trained to fire it, but they weren't told they would die. The Davy Crockett was withdrawn from service in 1971. The doctrine of tactical nuclear warfare was quietly abandoned. But they who built it, the generals, the strategists, the weapons designers, the men in Washington who signed the orders, had shown us something about ourselves. They were willing to risk the end of the world. They were willing to kill their own soldiers. They were willing to put nuclear weapons in the hands of teenagers and tell them to fire at the enemy, knowing they would never come back. The Davy Crockett wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a lapse in judgment. It was a reflection of Cold War thinking, a mindset that treated nuclear weapons as just another tool of war. And that thinking hasn't gone away. The Davy Crockett is rarely discussed today. Most people have never heard of it. The military doesn't talk about it in its history courses. The historians don't emphasize it in their textbooks. The suppression here is of memory. We want to forget that we were willing to use nuclear weapons on our own troops. We want to forget how close we came to destruction, how close we came to turning Europe into a radioactive wasteland. But forgetting is dangerous. If we don't remember the Davy Crockett, if we don't remember the insanity of tactical nuclear warfare, we might build it again. We might convince ourselves that small nukes are safe, that they can be used without consequences. And we would be wrong. Today, the Davy Crockett is a museum piece, a relic of a more dangerous time. But the concept lives on. Russia has developed tactical nuclear weapons for use in Ukraine. The United States is modernizing its nuclear arsenal, building new warheads, new delivery systems. The line between tactical and strategic nuclear weapons is blurring. The Davy Crockett was insane. But are we any saner today? The mystery is whether we've learned anything from the insanity of the Cold War. The evidence suggests we haven't. The weapons are smaller, but the danger is just as great. The Davy Crockett was a weapon of desperation, a last-ditch effort to stop an invasion that never came. But Item 10 is a weapon of dominance, a fighter jet so advanced that it changed the nature of air combat forever. A plane that can see you before you see it. A plane that can kill you before you know it's there. And it's already in the sky. The F-22 Raptor is the most advanced fighter jet ever built. It can fly faster than sound without using afterburners, a capability called supercruise that no other operational fighter has. It can cruise at Mach 1.8 for extended periods, crossing continents in hours. It's invisible to radar, stealth so advanced that it can fly over enemy territory, over enemy capitals, without being detected. It carries missiles that can hit targets 100 miles away before the enemy even knows the Raptor is there. And it's been flying for over 20 years. But here's the secret that most people don't know. The F-22 is so advanced that the US government banned its export. Even our closest allies, Israel, Japan, Australia, the United Kingdom, can't buy it. Congress passed a law specifically prohibiting the export of the F-22. The Raptor is a weapon so powerful that the US won't share it with anyone. And that's raised a terrifying question. If the F-22 is the most advanced fighter in the world, what's coming next? What have they built that's even more secret? What weapon is so dangerous that it could start World War III? The F-22 was developed in the 1990s and entered service in 2005. It was designed to dominate the skies. Its stealth coating absorbs radar waves, making it appear as small as a bird on enemy screens. Its engines allow it to cruise at supersonic speeds without the fuel-guzzling afterburners that limit other fighters. Its sensors can detect enemy aircraft from hundreds of miles away, long before they can detect it. In exercises, the F-22 has achieved kill ratios of 100-to-1. One Raptor can defeat an entire squadron of enemy fighters. The US built 187 of them. Then production stopped. The F-22 was too expensive, too advanced, and too destabilizing. The US didn't need more because no one could match what it already had. But the real secret is what the F-22 represents. It's a window into a world of black projects, weapons that are so secret, so advanced, that we don't even know they exist. Programs with budgets in the billions, names we've never heard, capabilities we can't imagine. The F-22 was followed by the F-35, a more advanced but less capable fighter. The F-35 was designed to be shared with allies. The F-22 was not. That tells us something profound. The United States has capabilities it won't share, even with its closest partners. What are those capabilities? Some say the F-22 has a plasma stealth system, a way of ionizing the air around the aircraft to absorb radar waves, making it even more invisible. Others say it has directed energy weapons, lasers that can blind enemy sensors or destroy incoming missiles. Others say it has a neural interface, a way for the pilot to control the plane with their mind, reducing reaction time to zero. The truth is classified, but the pattern is clear. The United States has technology that it's keeping to itself, technology that is decades ahead of anything else in the world. The US government has suppressed the full capabilities of the F-22 for over 20 years. The pilots who fly it are under strict non-disclosure agreements that extend beyond their service. The maintenance crews are vetted by the same agencies that protect nuclear secrets. The manuals are classified at the highest levels. The suppression here isn't of a weapon, it's of knowledge. We don't know what the F-22 can really do. We don't know what it's carrying in its internal weapons bays. We don't know what it's seen on its missions over the Pacific, over the Arctic, over the Middle East. And that ignorance is dangerous, because the F-22 is just one weapon. There are others. The B-21 Raider, a new stealth bomber, is in production right now, its capabilities hidden from public view. The NGD Next Generation Air Dominance, a sixth-generation fighter, is being tested in the Nevada desert, flown by pilots who will never talk about what it can do. The United States is building weapons that we won't know about for decades. And when they're used, we won't see them coming. The F-22 is a 20-year-old design. What has replaced it? The Air Force is working on a program called Next Generation Air Dominance. Not a single aircraft, but a family of systems that includes a new fighter, drones, sensors, and weapons. The details are classified, the prototypes are flying, and the capabilities are unknown. The mystery isn't what the F-22 can do. It's what the F-22's replacement can do. Can fly in space? Can it carry laser weapons powerful enough to shoot down ICBMs? Can it hack enemy networks, disabling entire air defenses before the first shot is fired? The possibilities are endless, and the secrecy is total. We live in a world where the most powerful weapons are invisible. We don't know what our own governments are building. We don't know what they're capable of. We don't know what they're planning. And that's the scariest thing of all. The F-22 Raptor is a symbol of everything we've discussed in this series. It's a weapon so advanced that it changes the balance of power. It's a weapon so secret that we don't know what it can do. And it's a weapon that could start World War III, not by being used, but by being impossible to counter. By making other nations feel they have no choice but to strike first. By creating a world where the only defense is a preemptive attack. The F-22 is a masterpiece of engineering. But it's also a reminder that the weapons we build to protect ourselves can become the things that destroy us. We started with a doomsday machine buried beneath Russian soil. A system called Perimeter that can launch nuclear missiles without human command, waiting for a signal that will never come until it does. We end with a fighter jet so advanced that the US government won't share it with its closest allies, a 20-year-old design that still dominates the skies. In between, we've seen rods from space that strike with the force of a nuclear bomb, weather weapons that control the sky, mind control programs that destroyed lives in the name of national security. We've seen secret space, planes orbiting for years, doing things we're not allowed to know. Nuclear-powered missiles that poison the world just by existing. Autonomous drone swarms that choose their own targets, that kill without human decision. Invisible lasers that strike at the speed of light, without warning, without sound. Tactical nuclear weapons that would kill their own crews. Weapons so insane that we've tried to forget we ever built them. And finally, a fighter jet that's a window into a world of black projects. Weapons so secret that we don't even know they exist. The pattern is undeniable. The world's militaries are building weapons of unimaginable power, and they're building them in secret. We don't know what they have. We don't know what they're planning. And that ignorance is the most dangerous thing of all. The tragedy isn't that these weapons exist. The tragedy is that we don't talk about them. The public is kept in the dark. The debates happen in classified rooms, behind doors we can't open. The decisions are made by people we didn't elect, by generals who answer to no one, by contractors who profit from war. And by the time we find out what they've built, it's too late. The weapons are deployed. The arms race is underway. The next war is already being planned, and we won't see it coming until it's on top of us. Because the people who build these weapons don't want us to know. They want us to be comfortable. They want us to trust them. They want us to look away. The silence continues. The weapons are being built. The secrets are being kept. Right now, somewhere in a desert, a drone swarm is being tested. Right now, somewhere in orbit, a space plane is doing something we're not allowed to know. Right now, somewhere in a classified lab, a laser is being made more powerful, more precise, more deadly. But you now know the pattern. You know what to look for. You know the names of the weapons, the programs, the secrets that were never supposed to leave the vault. You're no longer just a citizen. You are a witness. And witnesses have a duty to speak. Share this video. Send it to someone who doesn't know. Start the conversation. Break the silence. Because the only thing more dangerous than a secret weapon is a public that doesn't know it exists. So we leave you with this question. Which of these 10 weapons scares you the most? Is it the doomsday machine that can end the world without human command? The drone swarm that chooses its own targets? The invisible laser that kills without warning? Or the weapons we don't know about, the ones that haven't been revealed, the ones that are being built right now in the black projects, the ones that will change everything when they're finally unveiled? What do you think the government is building that we don't know about? Comment below. I read every single one, and I'll pin the most chilling theory to the top. Next time, we investigate the whistleblowers who tried to expose these weapons, the engineers, the soldiers, the scientists who saw what was being built and tried to warn the world, and what happened to them when they spoke. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching, and stay vigilant. The weapons are out there. The secrets are being kept. The only thing standing between us and the next war is knowing what they're planning before it's too late.